welcome back. My name is Chris. In this channel we do a lot of watercolor as well as other media. So for today I decided to do a review of the Rubens transparent watercolor set. This one is the 12 color. I know there's a lot of reviews out there of the Rubens. I think it became really popular like 2 years ago, and you could easily find it at Amazon. I believe that's the only place you could buy it for now. I decided to go for the 12 set instead of the 24 because I already have a lot of watercolors and I wanted to buy a small set that I could take on the go. And to be honest, pink is not my favorite color, but for some reason lately I've just been obsessed with pastel colors, and I really like the presentation of the set. So it comes like this. It comes in this really small pink box. It has the Rubens logo in here, and it says Artist Transparent Watercolor, Fine Artist Watercolors. So based on what I read and what I've seen in other reviews, these are professional grade watercolors, or a little bit average or a little bit above average from student grade. So this is how it comes. You open it up and you get this cute little cloth with the Rubens logo, and you take it out and you get the little palette. Now, like I said, I was not a fan of pink growing up, but now that I'm getting older, for some reason I'm really loving pink. I don't like the bright pink. I like more of this very toned down, almost pastel pink. So we take it out. So like I said, presentation is really good. You get this really sturdy cardboard box, and you get this beautiful cloth. And I think you could use this cloth to kind of wipe down your brushes or to get excess water off your brushes, but it's just too pretty and I don't want to do that. So let me put this away. Now, this is the set. Very small set, probably a little bit smaller than my hand. So let me make sure I have a ruler in here. It's about 4.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So it's very small palette. Like I said, I got this to do I got this for a travel set, or also for me to use in the studio when I don't have a lot of time to think about colors, which colors I want to use. I could always go to this one because it's already made. They already picked the colors for me, and I really loved the variety when I was looking at it at Amazon. So let me open it up. So you open up, and here are the colors. I already opened this and swatched it and used it for a little bit before I made this review. So basically when you get it, it comes with the little wrappers that you have to individually unwrap. And it also comes with this little swatch card. I believe the company is Chinese, so everything is in Chinese and I can't read Chinese. But the good thing about this is that it gives you the pigment. So here it is, if you could see, give you the pigment number. Plus they give you a space for you to swatch the colors. And when you are unwrapping them, they also have the name in English. So I don't have the wrappers anymore, but for example, in here I was able to tell it was permanent lemon yellow, and that's why I was able to write it in here. Now let me go over the colors that the palette has. We have permanent lemon yellow, which is PY3. We have cadmium yellow medium, which is PY35. We have cadmium red light, which is PR108. We also have rose red, which is PV19. We have permanent violet, which is PV23. France Ultramarine, which is PV29. Then we go to Payne's Gray, which is PV15, PV29, and PVK9. We have Emerald Green Deep, which is We have Emerald Green Deep, which is PG7. Yellow Ochre, which is PY42. We have Umber, PBR7, PR101. Burnt Brown, which is PBR7. And finally, we have Coal Black, which is Coal Black, which is PBK7. As you can see, this set has a lot of one pigment colors, and we only have, I believe, we have Payne's Green, which has 3 pigments, which is pretty standard for any Payne's Green in the market. It would always come with at least 3 pigments. And we have Umber, which it has 2 pigments. So those are the only 2 colors that have more than 1 pigment, which is pretty good. Especially for the price. I got this gifted. My husband gifted to me, but right now on Amazon it's between $25 to $28. The prices always fluctuate on Amazon, so I recommend you check them out and maybe wait to see if the price is going to drop. But like I said, this is a very good set based on what you paid. So let me do a couple swatches on 100% cotton watercolor paper. I'm not sure what type of paper this is. It's thicker, so I'm not sure if it's watercolor paper or just cardstock, but it did give a good idea of the colors. The paper behaved quite good when I was swatching the colors, but I also wanted to do it in a more professional watercolor paper. So here I have this little tiny card that I made that will fit perfectly in here. This is on Arches 100% cotton watercolor paper, and as you can see, the colors are actually pretty nice. I'm really loving the cat red light. I'm also liking the emerald green deep, and the color that I don't have at all in any other brand in my collection is the coal black, which is PBK7. So I was very excited to have a color that I don't have in my collection, and there's actually black, more so towards the black side. I know there's black pigments that you could buy from other brands. So for the next part of my review, I also want to swatch them against other brands that I have that might have the same pigment color or that might be similar hue. So let me set that up. So here are all the watercolors that I have in my collection that will match the pigments in the Paul Rubens set, or if I don't have, there's a couple colors that I don't have the pigment, but the colors are almost the same. So let me start with permanent. Let me put this in here. Let me open up my water. Let me get my little rag that is all used. I like to use rags instead of paper towels most of the time because they're more environmental friendly. But anyway, now another thing that I want to point out in the Paul Rubens set is that you have a lot of mixing space in here. Even though it's a small palette, you still have a lot for you to mix your colors. And you could also take this guy off if you need more space for you to mix. And I forgot to mention too, if you turn it around, it comes with this, so you can put your thumb in there if you want to do plein air or something, so it's easier for you to hold. I don't really do that, so it won't be that useful for me, but it might be useful for you. Okay, so let's start with the permanent lemon yellow. So the paper that I'm using is Strathmore 500. Let me get it for you. So it's this puppy over here. Strathmore watercolor travel pad. It's cold pressed and 100% cotton. I also got this from Amazon, and I will post the links down below for you to check them. I'm not sure how to feel about this paper yet. I'm used to the Arches 100% cotton, and even the B paper watercolor. The B paper company watercolor paper does a really great paper. I'm still trying the Strathmore, and maybe if the more I try it, maybe I'll see if I like it more, but so far it's okay. I would say though that the price is really affordable. I believe this guy was between $10 to $15, and you get 12 sheets. So that is not that's not a bad deal. That's actually a very good price. Okay, now let's start swatching. So we're gonna start with the permanent lemon yellow, which is PY3. So this is the Paul Rubens. As you can see, they come out really vibrant, and you could activate them really fast. You don't need to put a lot of water. You could just dip the brush in the water and dip it in the pigment, and they're ready to go. Now, the color that I have in my collection that will match the Paul Rubens permanent lemon yellow is Mijello Mission Gold Lemon Yellow, which is also PY3. So it'll be this guy over here. Let me see the difference. So the Mijello is a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more I would say a little bit more vibrant in the way that it comes down. Okay, so moving along, we have the Cadmium Yellow Medium, which is PY37 in the Paul Rubens set. So you only need a little bit to really get that color payoff. And the one that I have in my collection would be Hansa Yellow Deep by Da Vinci. Now the pigment in there in the Da Vinci one is PY65, so I don't have PY35 in my collection, but this is as close as I could get. So you see they're definitely different. The Da Vinci one is more towards the warm side than the Paul Rubens. Coming up is Cadmium Red Light, which is PR108. So we're gonna swatch Paul Rubens right over here. I mean, I really love the color payoff that you get. And the one that I have in my collection will be Cadmium Red Light by Sennelier, and it's also PR108. Now this one is very different from the Paul Rubens. This is definitely more red than the Paul Rubens. The Paul Rubens leans more towards the orange side. And this is also why it's important for you to always swatch your colors, because a color might have the same pigment number and the same name, but they might be a whole different hue. And that is all across brands. So don't ever go by the name or by the pigment, always swatch them, because you might be surprised that it, like I said, like in this case, same name, same pigment number, totally different hues. Okay, so next one for the Paul Rubens, we have Rose Red, which is PV19. The very beautiful colors. I'm really happy I got this set. So for my Rose Red, I have Quinacridone Red, by Daniel Smith, which is also PV19. Look at this one. Daniel Smith, the Daniel Smith color is more vibrant. It has more saturation, as you can see. And it's probably a little bit more on the pink side. But the Paul Rubens color is not bad. Okay, coming up, I have, by the way, I have this little swatch cards that I do to keep track of all the colors that I have. So this is my reference. So I have, let me put it in here so you can actually see it. So for Paul Rubens, we have Permanent Violet, which is PV23. You see, look at that. I mean, they're just beautiful. They pack a punch. And the one I have in my collection is from Lucas, which is Dioxazine Violet, which is PV23, same pigment number. Let me add a little bit more. Now in this case, as you could see, the Paul Rubens actually is more vibrant. It has more saturation, whereas the Lucas one is more, the color doesn't really deliver that punch. For Paul Rubens, we have France Ultramarine. Now, if you watch any other Paul Rubens reviews, you would see that some of the names, I'm not sure if it's when it's translated or if they just decided to name it that way because they wanted to, but some of the names are kind of off. Like France Ultramarine is usually French Ultramarine. So, like I said, I don't know if it was a conscious decision that they made, that they wanted to name it France Ultramarine, or if it's just a translation issue. But that's the name, France Ultramarine. Pigment number is PV29, and that's very standard across any ultramarine. So look at that. The one that I have in my collection would be Ultramarine Green Shade by Da Vinci. Pigment number again PV29. Almost similar. They're almost the same in my opinion. Okay, moving on to Payne's Gray. This one is also spelled kind of weird. Like I said, I don't know if it's translation issue or they just decided to name it that way, but that's what it's called. A little bit more water. Okay, so that's Payne Grays. Sorry, that's Payne Gray by Paul Rubens. Pigments are PB15, PB29, PBK9. The Payne grain I have in my collection is by Holbein, which is PR83, PB27, 29, and PBK6. So both of the Payne grains are made with 3 pigments. And like I said before, for Payne's grade, it's very standard to have 3 pigments, sometimes even 4 or 5. Now, as you can see, the Paul Rubens leans more towards a blue shade than the Holbein. So these two are a little bit different. Next up, we have Emerald Green Deep by Paul Rubens, which is PG7. And the one I have in my collection is Pale Green by Da Vinci, which is also PG7. A little bit more. So Da Vinci's is actually a little bit more vibrant than Paul Rubens. But like I said, Paul Rubens are still, they look at them, they still look very vibrant. They have a good color payoff for the price. If you're considering that, for example, a tube of Daniel Smith, depending on the pigment, is between $10 to $20, and you pay $25 for 12 colors, that's such a steal. Okay, next up we have Yellow Ochre. Yellow Ochre is, like I said, pretty standard to PY42 across brands. And mostly across all brands, it's kind of reliable that PY42 is going to be yellow ochre. But like I said, still swatch your colors because you never know. And the one I have in my collection is Air, which is also a PY43. It's also called Yellow Ochre. Very, very similar. Okay, we have Umber by Paul Rubens, which is PBR7 and PR101. Now this one, I'm not sure why they decided to do two pigments when it's usually one. It's usually PBR7 or even PR101. So that's Paul Rubens. The one I have in my collection is actually Raw Sienna by Da Vinci, which is PBR7. That is the closest color that I could see in my collection. But as you can see, they're very different. This one, the Raw Sienna, is more a little bit more toned down. The Paul Rubens one is it has more of a reddish kind of hue to it. Then we have Burnt Brown by Paul Rubens, which is PBR7. And for the one in my collection is by Da Vinci again, which is Raw Umber, and it's also PBR7. And they're almost identical. So the next one is Coal Black, which is PBK7. And actually, I don't have this pigment at all in my collection, which is very, very exciting. And it's actually a very beautiful black. Usually the blacks that I've seen on the market are made with 2 to 3 pigments. But this one is very, very beautiful. It's not that how can I explain it? It's not like a pitch black. It actually has a really nice tone to it. Now that most of the colors are dry, you could see that the Paul Rubens really competes with other higher end professional grade paints on the market. You really get a good value. You really get great pigments, great paints for $25, which is really crazy. Like I said, compared to a tube, for example, of Daniel Smith, which range between 12 to 20, or a tube of Sennelier, which can range between, like I said, 9 to 15, 16. So basically, if you were to buy maybe 2 tubes of professional grade paint, you could get 12 colors and a palette for $25, which is a great value. So I would definitely recommend this set if you're a beginner and you're trying to get into watercolor, or even if you're a professional and you're just looking for something very compact for you to take, like when you do plein air, or if you go to a coffee shop and you want to sketch, this will be a really good set. Now the only downfall that I see is that it only comes in the color pink. So this video is getting a little bit long, and I actually did a sketch using this set. Let me show it to you. I am using the Strathmore 500 series mixed media sketchbook. It is 100% cotton and it is a 90-pound paper. I gave myself only 30 minutes to do the sketch, and I started by using yellow ochre for the skin, and then I added a little bit of cadmium red light to add a little bit more depth. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that Paul Rubens markets this set as transparent watercolors, and I do have to agree on that claim. The only color that is more on the opaque side is yellow ochre, but that is very standard and you will find that in any other brand. I use rose red for the lips, and as you can see, the colors are really easy to layer on each other. They're also very easy to mix. I had no problem doing that, and they're very easy to reactivate. You only need a little bit of water to do that. For the eyes and for the hair, I use the coal black, and you could really see with the coal black that is really transparent. And transparency is something that a lot of people look for watercolors. So yeah, like I said, you could see the transparency of the black, or the coal black. Now, I would definitely recommend this set for beginners and professionals alike. I think you do get a really good value for your money. You get 12 colors that are that I would consider artist grade, that are very easy to use, and you get colors that are warm and cool for you to mix. Now for this shirt, I use permanent violet. I wanted to give a little bit more contrast since I use yellow ochre for the skin. So if you're thinking about buying this set, I would definitely recommend it. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you. I'll see you next time.